I'm old enough that I remember having to manually search through all the text in a document for one word and replace it with another, all by eye, hoping that I didn't miss a single instance. And all I can say is thank goodness for computers and the Find Change feature, which lets me do it all with a single click. Where is the Find Change feature? Under the Edit menu, choose Find Change, or press Command F or Control F on Windows. The Find Change dialog box is very different than it used to be in earlier versions, so old-timers might be in for a bit of a shock here, but it's relatively simple if you take it step by step. The Find What field lets us tell InDesign what we're looking for, and in this case, I'm going to search for the word Dragon Well. I could just type it myself, but in this case I'm going to select it on the page. Notice that even though I double-clicked on the word to select it, the Find Change dialog box stayed open. I'll click in the Find What field, and I'll paste it. Command V or Control V on Windows to paste. Now, what do I want to change it to? Let's go ahead and change it to the word Dragon Squill. Why not? Something like that. Now, I'm going to search for every place in my document that has this word and change it to this word. I know it's going to search throughout the entire document because that's what's chosen in the search pop-up menu here, Document. If I want to search for a different scope, I can choose one. For example, I might want to search for all the documents that are open. Not all the documents on my hard drive, but all the documents that are currently open. Or I might simply want to change this one story, just whatever's in this one text frame story, or from the cursor position to the end of the story, or maybe even just a single selection. All those options, all those scopes are available here. There's more options down here with all these buttons. Problem is that these buttons are, in my mind, very cryptic, so the only way for me to ever remember what these things do is by hovering the cursor on top of them. I hover the cursor over this one, it says Include Locked Layers. Do I want to include locked layers in my search? Or do I want to include the locked stories in my search? Do I want to include hidden layers that are not currently visible in my document? Or do I want to include master page text frames? You have these options. You can either include them or not. This one has to do with searching in text within footnotes, and these are very important actually. Whether you want your search to be case sensitive, that is, do you want it to pay attention to uppercase and lowercase letters, and do you want to only search for whole words, the entire word here? So I'm going to say yes, only search for whole words. So I'll click on that, and it'll only find Dragon Well. And for example, it wouldn't find it if it said Dragon Welling or something like that. It wouldn't find it because it'll only find it where Dragon Well is a single word. Once I've set up my Find What field and the Change To field and set up my scope, I'm ready to find. I'll go ahead and click Find, and it finds the first instance. In this case, it found the word that I had already selected on the page, so not so impressive. But we can click Change, and it'll find that one instance. Let's go ahead and find the next. There it is, down here. Notice that it moved the page around so that I could actually see the word that was selected behind the Find Change dialog box. I click Change to change this instance, or Change All to change all the instances of this word throughout the entire document, or Change Find, which will simply change this one instance and do a find for me. I find that often very useful if I want to choose one word at a time, but in this case I'm simply going to click Change All. It'll go through the entire document and tell me that 11 replacements were made in my document. Okay, let me show you a couple other features in this Find Change dialog box that you may not have noticed. One, new in CS3, is the ability to save your searches. So for example, if this is a search and replace that you're going to be using a lot on a lot of different documents in the future, go ahead and save it. Click on the Save icon, give it a name, and then click OK. Now it shows up in the Query pop-up menu. Next time you need it, just pull it right out of the pop-up menu here. Here's another feature you may not have noticed. These little flyout menus are for special characters. For example, if I wanted to search for a special character instead of the word Dragon Well, I'll delete that and search for a special character. For example, I could search for tabs or end of paragraph markers, or all kinds of special symbols, like if I don't know how to type the registered trademark symbol, just pull it out of the pop-up menu. There's all kinds of symbols and special characters here that you may not know how to type in this dialog box, but you can pull out of the pop-up menu. Here's a really cool one, wildcards. You can say, search for any digit, any number. For example, if you just wanted to search, you didn't know if it was going to be a 3 or a 9 or whatever, just say any digit, and it'll add the code for that in here, #9. You don't have to remember #9, but InDesign knows that #9 means any digit. You may have noticed these other buttons up here at the top of the dialog box. grep, which is regular expression searching, and glyph searching are more advanced topics that are outside the scope of this title. We'll be covering that in a future title. Object Search and Replace lets you search and replace object formatting. And we'll be covering that in the object formatting chapter. Down at the bottom of the dialog box here, you'll notice that it says Find Format and Change Format. That is for changing character and paragraph formatting, and that I'll be covering later during the character formatting chapter. The Find Change dialog box is obviously an incredibly powerful tool when you take the time to dial in exactly what you're looking for, where you want to look, and what you want to change it to. I'm excited about this next feature because it's something I've been asking for many years, and now here it is, finally in InDesign CS3. I'm talking about variable text, the ability to insert text that changes depending on various conditions, such as the current date or what text appears on the page. Let me show you how it works. I've got this magazine open, and let's say it's a custom magazine that I'm going to do for a number of different clients. Currently it's set up for JavaCo, but maybe I'm going to do it for some other company like TCO. So let's go to the next spread, Option Page Down or Alt Page Down to switch to the next spread, and we can see that JavaCo shows up throughout the document. I want to replace that text with a variable. So I go to the Type menu, and I choose Text Variables. Define. I'm going to define a new text variable. You'll see there's no variable set up right now, so I click New to create a new one, and I'm going to give it a name. I'll call it My Company Name. Now, in the Type pop-up menu, you need to choose a variable type. Currently, it's set to last page number, but if you click on there, you can see there's all kinds of different variables you can create. For example, chapter number, the date that this document was created, the file name, all kinds of cool stuff in here that will change, is that you can build into your variable. In this case, I'm going to choose custom text. And the custom text is going to be, let's call it TCO. You can type anything you want in there. Just type the name of a company and then click OK. I've now built a variable called My Company Name, and I'm going to insert it in place of that text. I'll click Done, come over here, and I'll delete the text, and instead I'll insert the variable. So I go to Type, Text Variables, Insert Variable, there it is, My Company Name. I select it, and you'll see that it just shows up. There's the new TCO, right? So everywhere I want to use a company name, I simply insert my variable. Perhaps I go over here, and I'll insert it over there instead. In this case, I won't go to the Type menu. I'll right-click to get the Context menu, or Control-click with a one-button mouse on the Mac, and go to Insert Variable, My Company Name. There we go. So now it shows up over there. And maybe I'll put it right here in the title just so it's really obvious. I'll replace that with my company name as well. There we go. It shows up in my heading of my article name. Now what's great about variables is that you can have consistency throughout your entire document, right? The same word shows up exactly the same way throughout the entire document. And later, if you need to change that word, it's very easy to do. I simply go to Type, Variables, Define, and I change the definition by clicking Edit. Instead of using TCO, let's change it back to JavaCo. Why not? Click OK, and immediately you'll see that the variable has changed throughout the entire document. Let me show you a different kind of variable now. Click New for a new type of variable, and in this case I'm going to call it a running head. Call it anything you want, really. And I'm going to change the type to a running header paragraph style. You can do this with character styles or paragraph styles. I'm going to be covering the details of styles and how you create them in a later chapter, but for right now, because we're using this document that already has styles set up, we can go ahead and use this now. In this document, I happen to know that the article heading paragraph style is applied to this paragraph. So I'm going to pull that style out of the Style pop-up menu. Article title. There we go. It's that style that's applied to those article titles. And I'm going to say this variable should choose the first instance of this style on the page. I could choose last on the page if I want to, but in this case I'm going to say the first instance of this style on the page, and that's going to be my variable. We could make it even more fancy by adding text before and text after. For example, we could say this is the space, and then text after could be space article, period. And why not go hog wild here? Let's go ahead and change the case to title case, so that even in the case of this kind of article head that is not set up with capital letters, it'll change to capital letters automatically. Now we'll see the preview down here, but the really cool part is when we click OK and actually insert our variable. Click OK, click Done, and I'll go ahead and create a new running head up here at the top of the page. Normally this would be on a master page, but I'll just do it here on the document page. And I'm not going to type any text at all. I'm simply going to right-click and choose Insert Variable, Running Head. And there's my running head that shows up at the top of the page here. Why don't I go ahead and zoom in here so we'll be able to see this. There's my variable, and it's pulling the name of the article from here. If I change this to maybe something like cool Java co-roast, it will automatically update in the variable. But there's two things you need to know about variables in InDesign. First is that it will only update when it has to redraw the screen. For example, if I jump to a different page and come back, it would update automatically. Or if I, let's say, you grab her hand and just move this off the page and come back, you'll see that it automatically updates. I'll show you one other trick for doing this too. Let's change this to coffee, and now I want it to update in the variable as well. Command Option slash or Control Alt slash on Windows forces your screen to update. Little known trick there, and that, as soon as I press that keyboard shortcut, will automatically update the variable. The second thing you need to know about variables is that they act as a single character. All of this acts like a single character, and so you don't want to put something like this that's a long variable in the middle of a paragraph, because it can't wrap. InDesign can't break it in the middle here to break onto two lines. You have to have a single column that's wide enough for the entire variable. Like in this case, the running head would work perfectly with the variable. Text variables is a great example of a feature that can shave off hours of work from a project. You know, every time I use it, I feel like I'm somehow cheating because it just makes updating my documents so easy. In the next chapter, we move away from text and into the wacky world of graphics and images. And you thought playing with text was fun. Just you wait.